What's going on, guys? It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. This one I'm going to go over 5 potentially league-winning tight ends I have slated to really potentially outperform their ADP this season in 2023. This will be the third video in this series. I've already touched on running backs and wide receivers, and then I'll follow this video up with a quarterback video as well. And then I'll get into some breakouts, busts, sleepers, and get into some draft strategy as well. So lots of content on the way. It's been a lot of fun diving into all of the off-season buzz, all the stuff that's going around the league, looking at projections, looking at rankings, and seeing what we can do in terms of draft strategy. So it's a really fun time of year. Really starting to put in that work so we can separate ourselves come the start of the season, and really having a great time doing it. So if this is your first time on the channel, thanks for stopping by. I hope we can help you out. If you like the video, if you get anything out of it, please do take a minute to like the video, subscribe to the channel so you can get more videos like this. It can really help me grow my channel and grow helps with the algorithm as well. So yeah, thank you very much again. With that, let's get into the first player. So starting us off with the tight end that goes pretty high in drafts, I do have Mark Andrews as a potential league winner here. I don't really think it's going to happen, but I think there's still a legitimate shot that Andrews finishes with the tight end 1. Currently, as I have it projected out, there's a pretty clear distinction between Kelsey and the rest of the field, and then I've got Mark Andrews statted out as my tight end 2. But the Ravens have a new offensive coordinator in Todd Monken, who's made it very clear that he wants to be a more pass-heavy offense, and on top of that, there really isn't a whole lot of target competition around this offense other than Mark Andrews. Lamar doesn't really pass the ball at the running back position, and the receiving core is very iffy in Baltimore, despite them trying to address it this offseason. Rashad Bateman is still dealing with an injury that bothered him last year. Odell Beckham Jr. is probably washed. Zay Flowers is a rookie. They brought in Nelson Aguilar, who hasn't really ever lived up to any potential. So Mark Andrews is going to be the clear-cut number 1 target in this offense. I think it's really reasonable to assume he'll see around a 30% target share. He saw a 29% target share last year, and he did that well banged up, and I think that's really reasonable to assume he's going to be even more involved in this offense this season. I'm currently projecting a 26% target share in this offense, and I'm also still projecting this Ravens offense to be a very run-heavy offense. I'm basically projecting them to be a near neutral split between rushing and passing attempts, which puts them near the bottom 5 in the league in terms of pass rate. And if they actually are serious about passing the ball more, and they do commit to throwing the ball to the tight end position the same way they have, as well as maybe these receivers just really don't pan out and they're still a more pass heavy team, then Mark Andrews is going to see a 30% target share on maybe 600 pass attempts for this offense. There's a legitimate shot for Mark Andrews to see over 150 targets this season. Gives him a real shot of putting up the same quarter numbers he put up in 2021, which in that season he was the tight end 1. So given that you can get Mark Andrews in round 3 in drafts, I love taking him there. I find that he's a better value than taking Travis Kelce in round 1. And I don't think it'll happen, like I said, but if Mark Andrews were to finish as the tight end 1 this season, you'd be absolutely drafting a steal in him if you got him in round 3. Next up, I've got Greg Dulcich. He's just a really explosive athlete. We really saw how well he performed on the field last season. He played in 10 games, and he finished as the top 10 tight end in 6 of those games, which is honestly really great for a rookie. He had plenty of explosive plays. We saw him do a lot with the ball in his hands after the catch. He had plenty of downfield targets as well, which is something that you really want to see out of your tight ends when you're trying to predict a breakout or a league winner, a guy with a lot of upside. You need to see him do stuff with the ball in the open field. You need to see those explosive plays because those are something that can really help give you upside and unlock a new little tier for the tight end position. And on top of that, there's a legitimate opportunity here for Dulcich to be the number 2 target in this Broncos offense. I think we can all pretty much agree that Jerry Jeudy's penciled in as the number 1 target here, but Cortland Sutton struggled quite a bit last year. Tim Patrick's coming off of a ACL tear and he's turning 30. They've got guys like Marvin Mims, KJ Hamler, and Marquez Callaway. None of those guys have really proven. I like Mims quite a bit, but I don't think I can realistically project him to be more involved in this offense than Dulcich. As I have it statted out right now, I still have Dulcich as the number 3 target with just a 15% target share. That's just 1% ahead of where I have Patrick slated at 14% target share as well. So I have him basically tied for the 3rd and 4th most involved target in this offense, and it still stats him out as my tight end 9. And I'm also I'm projecting a bounce back season for Russ, but still projecting him to put up numbers below his career averages. I had to have him just under 32 total touchdowns this season. I have him passing for about a 65% completion rate, which is below his career average. And if Russ really does regain his vintage form, returns to Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, and this offense really just refines itself with Sean Payton getting over here, there's a legitimate shot that Dulcich could find his way into being the number 2 target on a really honestly good offense. And if that happened, then Dulcich would have legitimate top 5 upside at the tight end position, and he's being drafted as the tight end 14, so he's effectively free, and he could be a guy that really just wins you your league if you get him that late and he ends up performing to what I think his ceiling is. Up next, we've got David NJOKU here. I've talked on him a little bit and how I think he's actually a really great value in drafts as well. He's just a really elite athlete, and there's really a realistic opportunity here for him to be the #1 target in this offense. I currently have him statted out as the #2 target behind Amari Cooper, obviously, but Amari Cooper's getting up there in age. We didn't really see any reason to think that Amari Cooper's going to fall off this season, but he's getting up to that age where it's certainly possible. I'm not a huge believer in Elijah Moore, so I think that at worst, NJOKU's going to be the #2 target and potentially the #1 target in an offense that's only going to get much better from last season. We saw Deshaun Watson only complete 58.5% of his passes last season, posting career averages of around 67% before that. So we're going to see a much more efficient offense now that Deshaun Watson's had a full off season. Maybe he completes only 65% of his passes, but we're going to see much closer to what we saw before Cleveland than what we saw during his first year in Cleveland out of Deshaun Watson this year. In addition to that, Deshaun Watson has a real tendency to target the tight end position. We've seen a lot of success for tight ends with Deshaun Watson in the past. And NJOKU's the most talented tight end that Deshaun Watson's played with to date as well. I have NJOKU statted out as my tight end 5, giving him only an 18% target share and giving him only 5 total touchdowns this season. He's athletic enough and could certainly produce some spike weeks to where a couple of broken plays, a couple huge touchdowns, and maybe a bit of a fluke touchdown production season, and you could suddenly see David NJOKU putting up a 1,000-yard, 10-touchdown season. I think that's in the range of outcomes for David NJOKU, and there aren't a whole lot of tight ends that you can get with that much of upside. He's got an ADP of tight end 9, and I think there's a realistic opportunity here for him to finish in the top 3. I think top 5 is more realistic. Like I said, I have him statted out as top 5 as my tight end 5, but he's talented enough and athletic enough and part of what could be a really decent offense. So I love getting NJOKU late. He's a guy that I'm more than comfortable leaving drafts with as my tight end. Up next, I've got GERALD Everett. This is a guy that's really just absolutely free in drafts this season. He's just another elite athlete for the tight end position. We've seen him be really successful in spurts throughout his career so far, and he just does a lot with the ball in the open field. Oftentimes when I'm watching GERALD Everett, I wonder why he's not a more elite tight end in the NFL, but I think this could potentially be the year we see GERALD Everett break out. Kellen Moore is the new offensive coordinator in Los Angeles, the Chargers, and he's got a history of using tight ends in his offense. We saw Dalton Schultz be really involved the last couple seasons in Dallas, and Everett in general is just a more explosive and more talented player than Dalton Schultz. On top of that, he's going to be a part of a much better offense than we saw in Dallas, given that I personally believe Justin Herbert is a much better quarterback and much more explosive quarterback than Dak Prescott. So really, if we see GERALD Everett get the level of involvement in this offense that we saw Dalton Schultz get in the past couple of years, then GERALD Everett's just going to absolutely smash his ADP. We've seen GERALD Everett put up spike weeks before. Just in their last playoff game, he put up 6 for 109 and 1. So he's certainly got the spike weeks. We see him do a lot with the ball in his hands after the catch. So there's going to be plenty of weeks where he just breaks a couple tackles and has a huge long catch. And he's being drafted as the tight end 18, despite a tight end 11 finish last season. The way I actually have it statted out, he finishes right around that tight end 18 location. So I totally get why he's being drafted there, because there is a ton of target competition in this Chargers offense. They obviously have Keenan Allen, Eckler, Mike Williams, and their newly drafted Quentin Johnson, along with guys like Joshua Palmer and Jalen Guyton. So there's a lot of target competition in this offense, but GERALD Everett's going to be on the field a lot for this team. I think that there is a world as well where we see injuries to the receivers there, and in that world, maybe GERALD Everett becomes the #3 target in an offense that's just going to pass a ton, and he will have a lot of success doing it. So GERALD Everett's totally worth a flyer, especially if you wait on tight end. I have no problem drafting him as maybe 1 of your 2. And he could certainly, I would not be shocked at all to see GERALD Everett put up a top 5 season. I think that's not a very likely scenario, but he's a guy that, especially being drafted that late, for him to have that much upside is just totally worth taking the shot on. And last but not least here, I've got CHIG OKONKWO. I'm just kind of continuing the trend of what I believe to be really explosive athletes at the tight end position. I think those are generally the guys that we see have the most upside here. And he's honestly going to be the #2 option in the receiving game for this Titans offense, assuming they don't bring in DeAndre Hopkins, which they have been linked to. I think it's pretty reasonable to assume Treylon Burks and CHIG OKONKWO are the 2 most targeted players in this offense. And Tannehill's been a serviceable enough quarterback to support a decent enough offense for this team. I'm also currently projecting the Titans for only a 48.7% pass rate this season, which is the 3rd lowest rate in the NFL. And despite that extremely low pass rate, and honestly, I'm only giving CHIG a 20% target share, he still stats out as my tight end 8, which is just shocking given that he's got an ADP of, I want to say, tight end 12. So I think in general, there's way more upside on top of that as well. If we see the Titans pass at even a slightly higher rate than I'm projecting them to, maybe we see Derrick Henry go down with an injury and they have to be a more pass-heavy offense. Maybe Will Levis comes in and maybe he's actually a good quarterback and there's just a better offense than what we're projecting here. Then there's certainly room for potential upside here with CHIG OKONKWO. He can do a ton with the ball in his hands after the catch. I really like the player. I think he's actually a very talented tight end. He's going to have a really successful career in the NFL, and he's going to have a very quality target share this season. And if this offense is at all better than we're expecting, he's got a ton of upside. So I think where he's currently being drafted, he's a steal. He's going to finish as a top 10 tight end this season. There's honestly room to grow from there. So I've got him as my tight end 8. I think he's got legitimate top 5 tight end upside, and you can get him with pretty much being one of the last tight ends drafted. So I love Chig. I would draft him pretty much everywhere in redraft this season if you can. Don't get one of those higher ranked guys. So that'll do it for the league winning tight ends here. Up next, I'll be bringing you guys my 5 league winning quarterbacks, and then I'll get into some sleepers, breakouts, and busts, and then I'll start to get into draft strategy as well. So we got a lot of videos coming. We'll be posting several a week. So if you like this video, please do take a minute to like the video and help me grow the channel. It really helps with the algorithm there. If it's your first time on the channel, thanks for stopping by. I hope you got something out of this, and if you did, please feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can click the notification bell so you get more notifications when I put more videos out, and we can really help grow the channel here. I've got about 340 subscribers right now. Really hoping to hit 1,000 by the end of the season. I know it's pretty unlikely, but I think it's possible. So thank you guys so much for all the support, and I'll catch you next time.